Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay. We are so happy to have you on board, and it's the Global Recycling Day. And we're glad to have you here on this webinar session this day. Thank you for joining. We have great speakers lined up for you, and we promise it's going to be a great learning experience. So thank you once again for joining on this webinar session. As you would all know that waste management has become a global issue and not just in Nigeria. And that's why we are bringing this webinar to you on how you can redefine your waste through recycling. And Street Waste Company is trying to change the narrative here by ensuring people are able to develop a recycling culture. And we give incentives in exchange for their recyclables. So welcome on board. We have great speakers for you lined up, all from different walks of life. Are you talking about the academia? We have Shade Nubi from Unilag. Talking about the corporate sector, we have Amaka Oyemelukwe. Are you talking about the government angle? We have Mr. Ibrahim Odumboni, and we also have Mr. Harry Plega as one of our speakers. I'm sure you're going to have a great learning experience here. Okay, without much further ado, I have the patient Ehinlaiye. She'll be moderating the section with me. So please welcome Patience. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Omo, for that outstanding introduction. You're all welcome once again to this webinar. My name is Patience Ehinlaiye. I am the Communications and Program Officer at Street Waste Company Limited. So I am so excited to be here, as I'm sure you are all excited to be here today. I mean, with our amazing lineup of speakers, we have two phenomenal male speakers and two phenomenal female speakers. Yes, 2:2 to gender equality. So you see, at Street Waste Company Limited, we are gender friendly. Yes. So, so to kickstart the webinar today is our very first speaker. She's someone I consider to be a giant in the recycling space. Yes. So she's the principal civil and environmental engineer at the University of Lagos, where she also doubles as the environmental management coordinator at the same university. She has a BSc in civil engineering at University of Lagos, and she also has a master's degree in energy and environment management from the University of Twente in the Netherlands. Let's put our hands together as we welcome Engineer Shade Nubi to this platform, to this webinar, as she'll be speaking on the topic knowledge gaps in recycling. So you're welcome, Engineer Shade Nubi, and the floor is yours. You can.
Good morning. Good morning. It's a raining morning. So I would like to say good morning to everyone. I'm so excited to be here this morning. It's a 15-minute thing, and so it's a lot of information, one trying to compress in 15 minutes, but I'll try. I'll really try. The topic today is redefining waste through recycling, and then I will be speaking or concentrating more on the knowledge gap. Let's begin with some facts about recycling. Africa generated about 125 million tons of waste in 2012. Lagos State generates estimated about 13,000 metric tons of waste daily. Both Africa and Lagos are expected that their waste generation would double by 2025 due to population. For Lagos, due to population and urban migration. There is a fear in other regions that the volume of waste coming in from Africa would overwhelm or overshadow all they are doing in those regions because of the volume of waste we're generating. That's why the African Union had a vision that African cities would actually start to recycle as much as 50% of their waste in African cities by 2023. Here we are, 2021, and we have the data that recycling in Africa is just barely about 4%. And with knowing full well that our recyclables, the waste that we generate, about 70 to 80% of it is actually recyclable, but yet we still do just 4%. The big question, why? Why do we have this so much resource, this so much waste on our streets? Why do we have this so much waste in our drainages? Why is it that the biggest and the largest volume of recyclables are actually gotten from the dump sites? On that note, I would say happy Global Recycling Day. And then let's begin to dig and see how the knowledge gap has actually impacted recycling. On that, I'll begin to share my slide. I have just 3 slides to help me today. And I'll begin with the first one. We know that recycling around the world is really celebrated. Mostly it's really talked about. We talk about recycling a lot as one of the strategies and solutions to waste management. The EU already pledged that all their packaging materials by 2023, 70% will be recycled. We have African countries, we have Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania, also pledging, having policies and plan towards, more sustainable waste management, recycling. We have policies, we have the extended producer responsibility. Even Lagos has its own extended producer responsibility. We have the plastic, policy. We have the Lagos Recycling Initiative. We have all of these policies and initiatives, and then yet we are barely just doing about 4%. And I still ask myself, why? Presently, I'm doing some research on circular economy, and I would say that I would advocate that we begin to also think about, having our product designed to last longer. Of course, we know that Nigeria, it's a nation that imports a lot. And so we will still have to really depend so much on recycling. And so I will begin the talk this morning with the stakeholders in recycling. And that's my first slide. I have this gentleman here who, is a producer or manufacturer. I will start with that. On my stakeholder hierarchy, I will start with the manufacturer or the producer. For the manufacturer and the producer, we have two aspects of it, which is the SMEs and then the multinationals. The multinationals do not have a choice most times because they have to be seen as sustainable. They really have to ensure that they support recycling, even in developing countries. They have to ensure that they provide grants, support programs to ensure that recycling continues. But what about the SMEs? We know that in Africa, SMEs are the ones contributing about 60% to the GDP. So they are a group of people that are very, very important. And of course, we also know that the SMEs are the ones that actually, the producers, a lot of producers, they produce a lot of things. When I was growing up, I actually, knew that, products are usually like agricultural produce, gari, beans are always in sacks. And after we use those sacks, we can actually reuse them. But these days, because we're encouraging entrepreneurship, a lot of things are being done when it comes to packaging. Everybody's repackaging things. So when you go to the supermarket, you have a lot of things in smaller packaging, plastic bags, pouches. And then so SMEs do not have an idea of what you're talking about when it comes to recycling. Are they informed? Do they know what it is to actually recycle? Or what they know exactly is just the fact that they have to produce something and they have to put it in a packaging. So the first question for me is, my first stakeholder, are they informed about recycling? Do they know what they're supposed to do? Do they care about the end of life of their product? And then I'll go to the next set of stakeholders, which is the waste aggregators. We have two segments of them. We have the formal, and then we have the informal. Of course, we know that there are waste aggregators, majority of them are the informal sector, which are basically, we call them scavengers. Majority of us right now, we call them waste pickers. My question is, are these waste aggregators, do they actually understand what recycling is about? They basically just actually collect these recyclables because of the livelihood. The informal sector, what they really care about is actually the fact that, okay, they have to live, they have to make some income. And so they aggregate all of this waste. And then I also talk about the consumer. Of course, for the consumer, we have both the elite, the educated ones, and then the non-educated ones. So you have the elite that know what recycling is. They are informed about recycling. But do they know where to recycle, how to recycle, what's happening locally within their community when it comes to recycling? So as a consumer, I buy a product. Do I know where the next or the closest recycler is to me? There is that information or knowledge gap. There are so many products. Do I know which product? For example, you have a particular, maybe a PET bottle. The cover is a different material from the PET. Are people informed? Do they know? Do they have an idea? So there's an information gap in between. Then we come to the recyclers. Yes, we have both, we have the foreign recyclers right now in Lagos, for example. The people that monopolize the market are foreigners. And then we have a lot of them. And then we also have the Recyclers Association of Nigeria. But really, are there an exchange of information between the recyclers? So we also have government, for example. And when I'm talking about government, when it comes to information, is we have both SON, which is Standard Organization of Nigeria. We have Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. We have waste authorities, example, LOMA. And the question is, what information are we sharing? What information do we have? We have the educational institution, the tertiary institution. There's so much research going on, and yet our research are on the shelves. And so right now, I would say that, are we informed? Are the stakeholders actually informed? Do they have information about what exactly is happening locally within their community when it comes to recycling? Are the producers informed about new product that they can actually use in packaging? Are the consumers aware of the recyclers available? Does government also have interaction with all of the stakeholders? With the producers? Does SON also have interaction with the producers, with the manufacturers? So for me, when we have information gap, everybody is working separately. Everybody has information when it comes to recycling. We have the recyclers having their own information and their own challenges. Are we all informed about what the government wants to do? That would take me to my next slide. Why do we have this knowledge gap? And I will start to say that, first of all, perception. What is our perception when it comes to recycling? What's our perception when it comes to waste? Do we see it as a resource? Do we see it as raw material for another person? So I would say that, for example, I'm starting with the producer. What's his perception about the product he's actually making, the end of life of his product? Does he have a thought, or does he think about what would happen to that product? Perception. Does he just think it's waste? It could actually just end up in a dump site. And then you also have the research institutions. What's their perception about the waste? Okay, yes, you have done the research. Are you sharing your information with other stakeholders? Where is the archive for information? Where can people actually get data from for decision making? And then you will have the consumers. And of course, when we have the consumers, you have two categories of people. The elites that know, but they're not really bothered about recycling because they don't have information at hand. Then there's also a category of people that do not even know at all. They're not educated. And then they don't have means of even having the information. So their perception about the waste is, okay, I use this product and I throw it away, it goes to the dump site. So we need to be able to, give information and share knowledge, how possible. And then we have lack of information. Lack of information, I would say that, sometimes we imagine that there's a lot of information around, but sometimes this information just actually rotates around the elite or the recyclers. And then it doesn't really trickle down to people that really need the information. I'm looking at a period whereby we have information disseminated in languages that people can understand. I'm looking for a period whereby I can have a billboard that will show me locations of recyclers. I'm looking at a period whereby, radio jingles are in Yoruba, in Hausa, whereby people will really understand what we're talking about. Recycling is not just the elite thing. It's something that everybody has to be able to relate with. So in as much as we feel that we have so much information and a lot of things are going on, for example, in Lagos, a lot of things are going on. The Lagos Recycling Initiative is huge. But we need to be able to spread it for people to really be able to understand. I want my neighbor to be able to know that she has a phone number of recyclers close to them. That's when knowledge is being shared. That's when we close the loop. That's when we close the gap of knowledge. And then if we have this poor awareness campaign, sometimes we always think that people know because we're on social media. But there are lot of people that are not on social media that we need to actually take, this recycling to them in the milkest of forms. And so we need to be able to prepare all of our awareness campaigns in ways they would understand, even from the schools. Educational research. Yes, I'm in the university and I know the tons of research we do when it comes to waste management, circular economy, we're looking at recycling. But we get to that point whereby what happens after the research? What happens after the research? Do we just put it in the library to archive? And then we know we have lack of synergy between stakeholders. Everybody is doing their own great things in different ways. And nobody is really sharing all of those knowledge together. And so as we celebrate the Global Recycling Day today, and we're trying to redefine waste through recycling, it's very important for us to actually look at ways to actually come together, for us to bridge that gap, that knowledge gap that we so have individually. And that would take me to my last slide. Yes. And this is actually bridging the gap, the knowledge gap. How can we bridge that gap? When a producer, wants to actually have a new product, and he has to rethink and think about what kind of product what kind of packaging do I want to use? And then he's contacting the university for innovations. He's speaking to the recycler. Do you think this will be recyclable? What's the recyclability of my product, of this packaging? And so I've come up with this slide to show that, everybody has to be connected. We have to work together. There has to be a synergy. There has to be collaboration with all of the stakeholders. Everybody has to work together to redefine what we call waste. It's real big resource. So we all have to come together to harness all the potential there are in for us. So with this, I am looking at a way whereby producers are not just working independently just to increase profitability. I'm looking at whereby we can share knowledge when it comes to all of the innovations we're doing in the educational institutions. whereby when a new product is coming in, we are rethinking designs. We're looking at longevity of products. And then with that, government is actually giving us opportunity to access funding. And then we'll have organizations within the government parastatal sharing their information, sharing their goals, sharing their targets. And then we can all know that, okay, for Lagos State, we're looking at this to achieve this much. And then the recyclers are aware. So we're not working independently. Everybody has to work together to actually ensure that we get above this 4% that they feel that Africa is doing, and then the fear that other regions have. Also, I'm looking at basically the consumers, and I'm also wanting to say that it's very important for them to have information on what to recycle, how to recycle it. You also want to know where to drop off. With all of this, it will be very, very, the knowledge that we all have independently, we can all share together. And I would also like to say that recycling is a huge strategy that can help reduce and manage our waste in Africa, developing countries, developed countries. And at this point, the greatest knowledge that we can all share together has to be in sync, has to be together. We all have to do it in collaboration, whereby nobody just archives their knowledge. Nobody archives whatever they are doing. We're showcasing. I'm looking for a period whereby, waste management, recycling are programs that we're showing on TV, not just on social media, on radio. Our successes, we're sharing it. The knowledge, the new innovations, the new designs for products, alternative ideas. And of course, people also need to know what materials are recyclable. Majority of the time, what we see is that we know that plastics, cans, because probably they have value. There is also the composting for organic waste. There's also for the e-waste. There's a lot more stream of waste that can be recycled that we need to communicate more and communicate it in indigenous way for everybody to be able to be a part of it. So on that note, I would say that synergy, interconnectivity, collaboration between stakeholders is very, very key. And we need to ensure that we're able to actually work together in sync. Thank you very much. I think I would stop on that note for the other speakers to say one or two things. Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much, Engineer Shadenubi. That was really an impactful session. And like she said, recycling is a huge strategy. Okay? And therefore, every stakeholder, every organization, whether public, private, all relevant stakeholders need to come together and make sure we push this message forward, because there's a whole lot of wealth in recycling. There's a whole lot to gain. There's a whole lot to learn. There's a whole lot to achieve from recycling. So thank you very much. That was a very, very impactful session. Now, before we bring on our next speaker, you can ask your questions. We have the Q&A box there, so you can always drop your questions there. So because after the webinar, we'll be having a question and answer session. Yes. And also after the second speaker, we'll be having a poll where we would collect your information. It's nothing too serious, just basic information about you to help us get to know you better. And also we'll also be having a quiz session. So I hope you guys are ready. I hope you're prepared. You're prepared for this. So please drop your questions in the question and answer box, and our panelists will attend to the questions. Yes, thank you. Now moving on to the second speaker. Our next speaker is someone I so much respect. Looking through his profile is heavily loaded Yes, heavily loaded. He's a man of international repute. He's a man of international recognition, international education, and even international experience. So he's a business development professional with a BSc in banking practice and management from the Institute of Financial Services, University College, Canterbury, United Kingdom. He also has a master's degree, several master's degrees actually, in international business economics from the Bristol Business School, UK. He's an excellent public speaker with an interest in politics and public governance. He is currently the MD and CEO of LOMA, which is the Lagos Waste Management Authority. And I am actually fascinated by this. I mean, the transition from the financial and the banking sector into waste management. I mean, that transition is one we need to study in Harvard School. Yes. So welcome. I want you all to give a warm welcome to our very next speaker, Mr. Ibrahim Odumboni. For the next 15 minutes, he is going to be speaking to us on the current status and the future directions in recycling. So you're welcome, Mr. Ibrahim. The floor is yours. Thank you, sir.
And thank you very much. I really appreciate your magnanimous introduction, and also thank you to the speakers that have spoken earlier. Well done, Shadi. I was listening to all your session as well. Apologies that I didn't join timely. I'm currently in transit. In somewhere massive in Lagos, in the Bejuleki access, and I'm quite excited to see recycling having a place in this area as well. So thank you to everyone, and thank you for the organizers of this program. For me, recycling. Like I always say to my people, all of us are waste handlers. The waste we handle defines who we are. And there's nothing you can do about waste. Waste cannot be fully wasted. It's not a waste until it's fully wasted. And I challenge anyone that can fully waste the waste. So that's why we are all here today. So recycling, I know that overall, in Lagos, for example, we have the peculiarity of reduction of small land space, but yet the challenge of increasing population and growth day in, day out. And with the population growth comes the challenges of solid waste management. So how do we cater for the waste of over 30 million people in a city that is blessed, where anyone can come to and then they will prosper, and then they'll be very fortunate to be around here. So LOMA is an agency by the states who has a responsibility to ensure that the regulatory side of all those and the operational side are all well managed. But we always need the support of all the private sector participants, including our recyclers, to ensure that these happen and progress are made. So to that vein, I know we have a lot of things we've achieved so far, a lot more to be done. And as time goes by and as we continue to navigate ourselves around this period, we will continue to see a move in the right direction for us. So Lagos Recycle, what we call our recycling program now, evolved from the Blue Box program, which was launched on the 5th of September 2019. Now we are on Lagos Recycle. And the reason why we moved from the Blue Box to Lagos Recycle is I felt we need to go back to basics. We really, as a team, need to turn around the way we approach waste management and recycling in the States. And the most important thing for us to do is to first understand the concept and also deal with the education and awareness need for recycling before we start choosing to go down the Blue Box route. I believe Blue Box is something that comes at the back of a successful recycling program. So that's why we've gone back to Lagos Recycle to better educate ourselves and then make it simple, keep it simple to all the household and the residents in Lagos for a better way to manage our waste. As we know, an individual generates minimum of 0.69 kg per day of waste. And we know very well that a significant fraction of those are all recyclables. But are we capturing all the recyclables we're supposed to capture on a daily basis? The answer is no. Can we do it? Yes. How do we need to do it? We need to create an enabling environment to do it. We need to create a value chain for the recyclers and the business that don't go out of business. We also need to ensure that we protect all the keen advocates that we have out there in ensuring that recycling as a business is something that has come to stay. It's not just something that we are adventuring to do, and over time it fades away. So that's one of those things that we need to address. So we brought in Lagos Recycle also, thinking at the back of the blue box pilot that's been done over a year, to say, so what have we learned? On the 5th of September last year, when we took a stock of what we've learned so far, we discovered that incentive was so key. We need to make sure that households are given incentive for them to be able to surrender their recyclables to the aggregators and the recyclers to process. So we decided that we're going to launch an incentive scheme. We're going to introduce technology, the use of Packham app to collect recyclables just like Uber app. We also decided that we are going to look at how we can formalize the informal sector. And that is ongoing. It will continue to grow. I know before now, we have all the informal sector catering as much for all the recyclables that we have in the States. There's no problem in that. There's always a room for everybody in that space. But we just need to set a minimum standard. And our standard is everybody that is dealing with waste management in the States, be it recycling or general waste, you must have a face. And to that vein is why we have extended our invitation to all the extended card pushers, scavengers, be it whatever you call it, that are out there and faceless to the organization at the moment, to come forward so that we can integrate them into our system. If we can better regulate them. Loma is more interested in the regulatory side of it for a better result for the tenements of Lagos. We don't want to be a participant. We leave the pavilion to the private sector to continue to do. So it's very important for us and for you, for anyone out there who is an aggregator, a recycler who has a lot of aggregators under them, to let them key into the Lagos Recycle initiative so that we can then from there take the next step. The next step along the line will be creating a value determining pricing so that these products, these raw materials, once there's a price for when there's a will, there will be a need. So it's very, very important for us that we create a very good, fair price for the products that comes out of or that we gather from our recycling program. So I know Lagos Recycle is not early days because we won't say it's quite new. We continue to grow. We welcome feedback from every stakeholders in the sector. And I also am aware that we have a lot of international contributors into seeing how Lagos can key into the circular economy. But for me, I will continue to say one thing: the contribution that the private sector, the Bureau of the FIBRA, which is the Food and Beverage Alliance Group, the polluter pay theory, the EPR, everything needs to be looked at in a frame that it is essential for recycling to be a success as it is. We need a lot of support and investment in the recycler. At the moment, they barely break even. So we need various organizations, NGOs, supporting them with their basic need: crushers, balers, space, anything that could make life easier for them. When value comes in the industry, all of us stand to gain. and there'll be a better way to manage our environment. So once again, from me, I'll continue to be on the call. I'll take as many questions as possible. And I want to also appreciate Street Waste for what they are putting together. And I personally am more interested in the growth of Street Waste because I can remember very well my first time meeting the anchor for Street Waste. I'm always curious to know what's the next step, next step, next step. So I want to see Street Waste grow and become bigger than the likes of Recycle Point and Recyclers on Point in the future. So please, the sky is your limit, the Street Waste, and for other
Thank you very
contributors,
much.
I know Loma will give you as much support as possible. No matter what constraint you are feeling now, we feel your pain. And the only thing we can do is to try and take some of it away from you. So all the best in all you do. And thank you to all the contributors as well. Over to you. Back to you now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support. Thank you, sir.
That was the MD CEO of Loma. Thank you very much, sir, for those words of encouragement. We are more than honored to have graced us with your presence this afternoon. So you heard it from the Loma CEO himself. There are so many opportunities, in waste management, and I'm imploring each and every one of us to key into these opportunities because we are not only creating a wealth of income for ourselves, but we are also protecting our future generations, because I believe the best legacy we can leave for our children is a clean and safe environment. So please keep your questions coming in the question and answer box, and then we'll attend to them after now. So for now, we are going to take a poll, a short poll for about 30 seconds to 1 minute. Yes, so the poll is just basically taking your personal information. We just want to know your location, where you are joining this webinar from, so it's going to pop up on your screen now. So please just answer the questions. Yes, while we prepare for our next speaker. Can we all see the poll showing on our screens? Okay, so the poll is ongoing now. So once you're done, you can submit with the poll. Submit the poll. Yes, so thank you all. Thank you all for your responses and for your cooperation so far. Like it's been amazing having you guys on board. So now moving on to our next speaker. So we've heard, now we've established the fact that there is a recycling chain and there are different stakeholders, that are responsible for waste management. We've heard from the academia. We've also heard from the governmental organizations. Now we know that the bane of recycling, waste management doesn't just fall on the government alone. We have individuals, business organizations, and producers that also have a responsibility to play in this process. So our next speaker is going to speak to us on extended producer responsibility, on the responsibility of producers in the recycling process. She's a sustainability professional who is committed to building sustainable communities, which in turn creates sustainable businesses. She has a BSc in pharmacy at the University of Benin and also an MBA from the University of Lagos. She is also a proven policy expert. She is one woman I am particularly inspired by, and this is because of her recent feat in her career path. It was a big win for every woman out there. So I want to say congratulations to her. So please let's welcome on board our next speaker. She is the Director, Public Affairs, Communication, and Sustainability at the Coca-Cola Company. Please join me as we welcome Mrs. Amaka Onyemelukwe on board to speak to us for the next 15 minutes on extended producer responsibility. Thank you very much, Mrs. Amaka. You're welcome on board. The floor is yours now.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I hope everyone can hear me. I will start by sharing my screen. Just let me know when you can see it.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So I felt that it's going to be more of a conversation, but I just felt that also I should start by sharing one or two slides as it stimulates our thoughts. So a lot of the speakers have spoken. I want to say thank you to Sade and my honorable MD who had laid the context in terms of recycling, the gaps, and also what Lagos is doing in the area to support this value chain. So for me, my job is actually to talk about the EPR, actually. What is the role of Coca-Cola, for example, in the EPR? And I don't know how many of us know what EPR is actually. What is actually EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility. So everybody has talked on how the producers of plastic packaging materials, or the users that use them in their beverage packaging, actually have a very great responsibility. And that is what I'll be focusing on today. And for us actually as a company, Coca-Cola is one of the biggest users of plastic bottles in the packaging of our products, especially in Nigeria, where there has been significant change from the glass bottles that we are all used to when we are growing up to the consumer demand on on-the-go packaging, where everybody wants to be on the go, which has made a lot of producers to package products in plastic packaging material. And we believe that EPR is actually a great tool to circular economy. So for EPR, I tried to define it in a very simple term to say that extended producer responsibility is actually, sorry, I think I moved so fast, is a strategy that is aimed at reducing total environmental impact from a product, including its packaging, by putting responsibility of the entire life cycle of that product on the hands of the producers. So when we talk about the life cycle of a product, it actually starts from the design of whatever packaging material that you are producing. I know that Sade touched base on it. So time has come where before you even go into production and before you want to use a particular packaging to produce your products, you need to ask yourself, is it environmental friendly? What is going to be the impact on the environment after it has been consumed and disposed? And actually that is the very first place that we have to start the extended producer responsibility, up to the time that the consumer consumes it and what then happens afterwards in terms of the impact in the community. I just tried to actually lay a context. So when we talk about the life cycle of a particular product, we actually need to think more broadly, because some people feel that, for example, oh, maybe Coca-Cola is not a producer of plastic packaging, for example. We are users, the same way consumers are users. So by the way, there is a producer of a plastic packaging. And then from the design, but also we have a responsibility, for example, that before we choose a particular plastic packaging, we have to ask ourselves as a responsible company, is it 100% recyclable? Because there are materials that are in use today that are not recyclable. And part of our commitment is that we must make all the packaging that we use, we must make sure that we are using 100% packaging materials that are 100% recyclable. So that at the end of the day, when we are advocating for those materials to be collected and recycled, we are sure that those materials indeed has a second life. From the production to the distribution to the utilization. For example, when we package, even the retailers that we work with, everybody within the value chain, we all have a responsibility. All of us in this call, we are all consumers. And we also have a responsibility. How do we dispose the products after we have finished using, be it packaging material in terms of beverages or any kind of packaging that we use? From cosmetic, we are, MD of Loma had said it all, we are all handlers of waste. So we have a responsibility that after we have finished whatever packaging material that we find ourselves with our products, we must have a responsibility to see how they are disposed and recycled so that they don't end up where they are not supposed to. So this actually tells us that from the manufacturers to the retailers, to consumers, to how the materials are recycled, it's a collective responsibility. As much as bulk of the responsibility lies on the producers, we all have to know that without you and me, the whole loop will not be able to close. And that is actually the request and the leadership that companies like us are driving to tell ourselves that we need to move from the linear economy to the circular economy. And when we do this significant shifts, that is where the whole awareness on recycling, how is the material being recycled? How are they being collected? Because if they are not collected, they can't even be recycled. So that is the whole thing in terms of driving awareness, ensuring that when people want to recycle, they know where and how to recycle. And what is the incentive mechanism that is attached today in recycling? Why is Nigeria not recycling enough? Shade talked about the statistics in terms of where we are today. We generate so much waste, but less than 20%, the last data I saw, are being recycled. Why is it so? MD of Lawman also touched on it. There is not enough value today placed on plastic packaging, for example. So it is not exciting for that person that really wants to recycle. But first of all, I would also want to encourage all of us that we should move away from so the first thing is environmental sustainability. We all have a role to play. We want cleaner environments. You don't want an environment that is filthy. So that is the first consciousness. Then of course, there has to be a value also. So I think that somebody had raised it in the question platform to say, because of abundance or lack of recycling companies in Nigeria, recycling or the materials don't have commensurate value today from the cost of collection. And then what we see is that even the people that are really aggregating the materials really have very few off-takers that have taken the material. So there is no pool that happens in this whole circular economy. And that is, it actually takes me to the next question in terms of, so my role was to talk about how Coca-Cola is taking action on this whole EPR journey. And I would like to start by telling you that, first of all, as a company, in the global platform, our global CEO, this is James Quincy, made a global commitment to say that we want to get to a world without waste. We want to collect back from the market every bottle or can or equivalent of every bottle that we place in the market. And that is our world without waste vision, because we believe that we have to invest on our planet, on our packaging, so that we can help make the world's packaging problem a thing of the past. And this was made publicly in 2019 at the Davos, that's the World Economic Forum, where global leaders actually come together to give commitment or take action on how to build more sustainable communities. And ever since then, or even before then, there are three ways that we are taking this action. The first is on the design. So we have made a commitment that all our consumer packaging must be 100% recyclable by the year 2025. In some countries, we are way ahead. In Nigeria, for example, all our packaging are already 100% recyclable. The challenge, however, remains on how are they collected and how they are recycled. That is the big gap that we see. And another thing is that we have also committed that we have to use 50% recycled materials on all our packaging by the year 2030. In Nigeria, we are still at 0 in this particular area because of lack of a bottle-to-bottle recycling company that can recycle those materials that are being collected today into another bottle that we can use back in our operations. In some countries like South Africa, we already using some of the, most of our packaging, for example, at the water brand, are 100% recycled content today. And that is the vision that we have in Nigeria, and that is where we are going. On the second pillar is we have to enable collection. And our commitment is 100% of equivalent of all the materials we put in the market by 2030. We might say that 2030 is long, but we know that this we cannot achieve alone. And that is why the third pillar is very critical for us. We must build partners. We must work together. Everyone, ourselves, our retailers, our consumers, NGOs, governments, even fellow competitors in our value chain must come together for us to be able to achieve this goal. And that is what gave us the inspiration, ways even before we gave this commitment. So FBRA was born from the vision of Coca-Cola Company in 2015, where we realized that despite the investments we have made in this sector to ensure that materials are being collected. By the way, as far back as 2005, Alchem, I don't know, most of you know Alchem today, was a 1.6 million investment of the Coca-Cola Company on how we actually wanted to see how our bottles are recycled into any other use. And that was how the investment of Alchem was born. Alchem used to be a textile company. And when the textile market went under, we had to re-engineer the company so that they can be able to recycle bottled materials into fiber. We are proud that that investment today is one of the biggest off-taker that we have that converts materials into fiber. But then we need more of the Alchems to come to play. We need other companies that can convert it into bottles that we can use back so that we would have closed the loop. That means when we use the bottles, they are recycled and we use it again in our operations. That way we are closing the loop and would have been able to do the circular economy in a full scale. It becomes more recreative. There's going to be more value for even the collector so that the collector have better incentive to collect more bottles. Yes, it's been a slow journey, but I can tell you that we have made tremendous progress. So this actually shows you the journey of, in 2018, it took us 3 years to register FBRA as a limited by guarantee company, and we have to pass through many processes. We want to thank Nesre. Nesre was very supportive throughout this process. And by the way, and that was how the first EPR policy was developed in Nigeria. We had 4 pioneer members, like you can see in 2018, that engineered this course and formed the nucleus of the formation of FBRA. As at last year, we have a total of 16 member companies that have come together to champion this cause. And apart from that, on the leadership of FBRA, so what I want to say is that I know that MD of Loma had talked about how do we drive more value so that the collector or the waste picker on the road have more access or more value to the plastic bottles that is being picked today. We know that, so this actually led us to developing a policy where Nigeria will be able to accept the use of recycled materials in our operations. Coincidentally, SON was very supportive and that policy is in place now. It has seen us, we have almost a 95% completed bottle-to-bottle plant in Nigeria. And we believe that before the end of this year, if that operation kicks off, the recycling value chain will see the kind of pool that is required to drive the EPR, where producers like us are able to take these materials and use it back into our operations. We have a commitment, Nestle has a commitment, Nigerian Breweries has a commitment, Jejo has a commitment. And we believe that companies our size will lead the way in ensuring that the true EPR is being implemented fully in Nigeria. However, we also recognize there is a lot of gap because we just have 16 member companies that are fully committed and putting their resources to solve this problem. But we know that we have way over 500 beverage and food companies in Nigeria. It's going to be and that is why we believe that we are not going to get deterred, because there's a lot of free riders that are not committing to ensuring that we all come together and have more resources for us to be able to intervene, both from the waste picker on the street to the recycler or the aggregator that is setting up, or to the recycling companies that are, because the truth is that it is not a very, in as much as it's a good business, but it requires a lot of moving parts for them to be able to remain profitable. And that is part of the extended producer responsibility, that we would not leave them to handle it alone. We have to be part of the solution, because we have also been part of the problem. So what I'm saying on this call today is that the food and I represent, so FBRA is a producer responsibility organization registered with NESRE and the Ministry of Environment to drive circular economy in Nigeria. We've been on this journey since 2005, and we are not going to get deterred. We are fully committed. It's been a long journey, but I can tell you that at least in 2021, I am very certain that the game is about to change. And that is why I love what Lawman is doing to profile collectors, to position them and to scale them. Because very soon, if you consume your bottle, if you look elsewhere, someone else is going to take it away from you. That is where we are moving to, so that everybody understands that what they have on the hand is a resource and not a waste, basically. And also, just to say that FBRA is not just a PET, we're not focusing only on the plastic bottles, because most of us in the room also have flexible packaging and other ones. And we are going to make sure that we expand the net, that we do not only see plastic bottles being collected, other waste streams are being looked at in terms of how we are going to drive value for other waste streams, so that basically every waste that we have under the food and packaging would have a second life. And that is the commitment we are giving here. And at the end of the day, too, for Coca-Cola, we believe that whatever we do under the Industry Alliance, it's a long journey and a lot of things need to happen. And on the other side, we are fully committed in working with NGOs. We have a lot of grants running to different NGOs and social ventures to set up just small facilities like this, so that materials do not end up in the dump site. We don't want them to get to the dump site. We don't want them recovered at source, because the clean bottles are much better for even the recycling companies, so that they can spend less money trying to disinfect them. And that is really what these neighborhood drop-off centers are doing, so that if people are aware where to recycle, they will be able to tap into that. And it has turned to a lot of empowerment scheme for women and youth alike in these neighborhood communities. You don't need a capital. All you need is plastic bottles that are in abundance in your community. And like Shade has alluded, today we know that we need to do more to drive awareness for people to know, oh, I live in, for example, Lekki, where do I drop off? I live in Surulere, where is the next drop-off centers? And we are working with RAN to develop something like a directory. And I know that Bakam app also is something that Bakam also have with the Lagos Recycle. So you sit in the comfort of your home and you are able to just, at the click of an app, and somebody shows up to pick up your bottles. And I think that is what technology has done for us that we really need to leverage. And I really want to commend Lawman for leading such a laudable initiative. I encourage all of us here to download the app and help make Lagos a cleaner city. And I just want to, I don't know whether I've short my time, but I just want to say, with you, Nigeria without waste is actually possible. And for us as a company, we need all of us to be on deck to be able to solve this challenge. So I'm going to stop here and hand over to the organizer. Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much, Mrs. Amaka. That was a very, very enlightening session. And I'm sure there are so many questions that will follow. We have so many questions for you that will follow after now. So moving on, we are gradually coming close to the end of the webinar. And I hope you guys have had an amazing time like I have. So to our next speaker. So we know that waste management is a global challenge. It's not only endemic to Nigeria, it is global, especially in this 21st century. And therefore, it requires global solutions, global innovations and global partnerships, so that we can tackle this growing menace. And in that regard, I think Lagos is it's actually in the right direction, because right now Lagos is trying to build or forge bilateral relations with the Netherlands. Yes, with the Netherlands. And the Netherlands is building this relationship with Lagos, like building this partnership with Lagos, so that they can influence the economic, the innovation, and the science sphere. And it doesn't stop there. It only gets better. They are now looking into diversifying into energy. They are now looking into diversifying into energy transition, into climate adaptation, resilience, and even the circular economy. So in our midst today, our next speaker and our last speaker for today is from the Netherlands. Yes, and is here to give us an international perspective on this topic, on this issue. Is the acting consul general of the Dutch embassy in Nigeria, and he has been in Nigeria working tirelessly since March 2020. So let's welcome on board Mr. Ehinlaiye. I hope I got that pronunciation right. I'm so sorry if I pronounced it wrong. Let's welcome on board Mr. Ehinlaiye, and he's going to be speaking to us on the topic technological innovations or advancements in recycling. So you're welcome, Mr. Ehinlaiye. You have the floor now. Okay, I think. Okay, so yes,
good afternoon.
We have Mr. Ehinlaiye. So welcome, sir. Over to you.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me first apologize for doing it without a camera and some difficulty with connections today. I apologize arriving late, and I was just kicked out again, but I'm glad to be back. First of all, thank you so much, Street Waste Company Limited, to organize this event. I think very inspirational presentations by Sadeh, Ibrahim, and by Amake, and I think there is no knowledge gap when it comes to the circular economy in Nigeria. Let me explain it a little bit from our Consulate General's perspective, because circular economy is beyond borders, and especially the challenges we do have. I arrived 1 year ago to Nigeria. I've been here before, but never worked here before, so it's great to be here, although it was a difficult year. We are an important trading partner, an innovation partner for Nigeria, but what we are aiming for in our new bilateral relationship with the federal and with state governments is to diversify our economy. We are the fourth trading partner from Nigeria. We are a small country, but that's predominantly related to the fossil fuels. And as Nigeria, we are much more ambitious. And in our economic and innovation activity, there is a strong focus now on the SDGs and on climate change adaptation. So as a person, I really believe, because I've been working in different countries in Africa, that a transition to a circular economy is really necessary. And we all want to reduce emissions and build a better and long-term resiliency, which is also very important for Lagos and Lagos State. This, of course, is not only limited to Nigeria and the Netherlands, because we are working in a global environment. And I'm really pleased to see that there is so much momentum at the moment in Nigeria, both on federal level and on state level, but as well including the private sector, where a number of companies Also Dutch companies or Nigerian and Dutch companies are very much committed to a more circular economy. And I think the private sector also is the driver of change. I see two reasons for growing awareness. First of all, the Paris Agreement, of course. We all want to reduce and we want to have more sustainable energy and saving energy. And at the second reason is also more pragmatic. The new economy offers also a lot of social opportunities. And as Dutch Consulate General, we very much like to link that with youth employment and a very well-skilled workforce in Lagos State. So, for example, we have a program with the Tata Foundation and it's Orange Corners, where we try to help young entrepreneurs by addressing societal challenges, and they are very much related to climate adaptation and mitigation. And more companies, I feel, after 1 year, big and small, understand the concept that we have to change. We are learning by doing, I think. That has been mentioned by the three speakers before as well. And my experiences after working in countries like Canada, Brazil, Mozambique and Ethiopia on the circular economy, that you have to make it tailor-made. What is working in one country not necessarily is working in another. So you really have to include as well the informal sector. And if you do so, I think there are wonderful opportunities when it comes to developing new technologies. In the Netherlands, my government, I would say, is a driver for innovation. Every year there are funding opportunities for the best 10 innovative approaches. And we see as a Consulate General that in the agricultural sector, in the textile, in the energy sector, a lot of momentum is created, but also a lot of gains can be made. We want to reduce agricultural waste. We can make energy from agricultural waste. We like to use textiles in a different way with complete different new materials. So I think the big challenge nowadays is finding the right financial incentives to help young entrepreneurs taking the next step. So we are learning by doing so. We are trying to get our Dutch investment bank involved with the Nigerian Access Bank and trying to create some funding modalities and where we can bring also partners from the Netherlands. We can link them up with Nigerian partners. A circular business model is a cooperative model. The key lesson is find the right partner. You can only create a circular business model together. The Netherlands want to support Nigeria and Lagos State to create such a business climate where circular initiatives can flourish. We stimulate, we share knowledge, and we see cooperation nationally and internationally. Even in the coming months, in April, with the World Congress on Circular Economy, we have the federal and the Lagos State government also involved. So that's a big success. And I can see that there is a huge momentum regarding the circular economy at the moment in Nigeria. So congratulations for that. To conclude, we are in this together. So we need to share knowledge and work together on this big transition to a circular economy, because it's our, like Amaka said, shared responsibility. The circular economy is going from startups to scale-ups in the Netherlands, and we hope we can do the same in Nigeria. We have to accelerate and start spreading to our circular wings, because it's possible to grow an economy that has less impact on the environment, less impact on resources at lower cost. It's not only good for the shareholders of businesses, but it's also good for the 8 billion shareholders on this planet and for the next generation. And thank you so much for having the opportunity today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harry, for gracing us with your presence. That was a very beautiful presentation. And I think we want to use this opportunity to commend the Netherlands for all they are doing in Nigeria. So thank you to all our speakers. It's been an amazing time. So now we are moving on to the question and answer session. Yes, we have so many questions lined up for our speakers today. So our very first question goes to Mrs. Amaka. Yes. So I know we hear about zero waste, zero plastic waste, rather, no plastic waste. My question is, is it possible? Can we actually phase out single-use plastic? Because I know not all plastics are bad. Yes, mostly single-use plastics. Do you think we can completely phase out single-use plastics, especially in Lagos, considering our lifestyle in Lagos and our culture? Like, imagine being stuck in traffic and then you are hot and you're sweating and you need chilled Coke. So I don't know, what do you think? Can we actually phase out single-use plastics in Lagos? Is it possible? Yes, I think.
Sorry.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah. So when you say single-use plastic, I reckon that beverage containers are also regarded in terms of government definition as single-use plastic. So the truth is that plastics have become a part of our daily lives. And until we find an alternative to the plastic bottles in terms of, I don't think it is not realistic. It doesn't make economic sense to phase out the single-use plastic that we all use today. I wouldn't say it is not impossible. So it's not impossible because who knows? And at the Coca-Cola side, we have invented the plant bottle, but it's not commercially viable in a lot of countries, especially in price-sensitive markets like Nigeria. Consumers will simply not be able to afford it. And then the paper bottle is also undergoing some trials, but whatever packaging that we come up with, we all have to know that they have different environmental impacts. We know that to recycle plastic bottles has very less CO2 emission than the glass bottles that everybody is advocating today. So it actually have less environmental impact in terms of recycling, to recycle the plastic bottles than to recycle the glass. So at the end of the day, we are looking at environmental impact. If plastic bottles are disposed correctly and recycled, we don't have much environmental problems in our hands. So for us, plastics are not bad. It is the use of it that is bad. So we are moving, or better, we are focusing on how do we educate people to properly dispose plastic and have recycling centers or drop-off centers that allows the proper use of those packaging materials, because they've made our lives easier. We as a company, we have glass and we have plastic bottles. If you ask us, we are happy to really go back to glass. We have a campaign back to glass. But what it means is that at the end of the day, a lot of businesses are going to close up, because you probably have to be only Coca-Cola and the likes of 7-Up that will be in business. The rest of every other new entrant into Nigerian market packages in plastic packaging. So at the end of the day, it's good for business for me. But then how are we encouraging the economic landscape in terms of other small players that might not be able to go into full-blown manufacturing facilities in glass? So we really have to look end to end when we are talking about phase out this or ban this, because it's bigger than what we would have imagined. So for me, it's how do we focus on educating people on the proper disposal, making investments in terms of infrastructures that will allow them to dispose well, and then making sure that we have recycling centers that we're going to create jobs and empower thousands of people, by the way, rather than saying, let's phase it out. So that would be my answer to that. Thank you.
Thank you very, very, very much. And I do concur with you. So yes, we have a question for Engineer Nubi. The focus of recyclers and recycling initiatives in Nigeria over the years has been on plastics, metals, paper, and cartons, but little has been done on organic waste, which constitutes the bulk of waste generated in Nigeria. How can bulk generators of such waste be encouraged to divert such waste rather than throw away?
Well, yes. I don't think organic waste is actually well spoken about. You know, we speak a lot about plastic waste, cans, and things that have more value, in quotes. To answer this question, I would say that we need government intervention when it comes to organic waste. Because, you know, there was a time during the last visit of our Dutch friends, when we're doing scoping for Lagos, we actually visited Earthcare. That's a place in Ikorodu, and they are fully into composting. But when we got there, it was sad to find out that they had so much of organic fertilizers, and they didn't have market for it. So we definitely would need government intervention to ensure that, you know, there are policies that would help when it comes to the use of organic fertilizers. And then there is the creation of awareness on, you know, ensuring that farmers can access this kind of fertilizers. You know, we have a lot of funds going into the purchase of fertilizers, the import of fertilizers and all of that. But if a state like Lagos, with the population that we have, we can actually, you know, work on composting and ensure that we can use that to increase agriculture, it would really help. So for me, I think it's important that, you know, we have government participation when it comes to composting, and then we have great awareness even for the farmers. Farmers need to know that organic fertilizers are as good or even better than the imported ones that are really made up of chemicals. So we need both. We need government intervention to help with policies that would support, grants that would support, you know, and then also purchase, you know, when you're doing all of these grants for farmers, purchase of fertilizers, ensure that what you're doing is supporting SMEs or recyclers that are into organic composting, and then make farmers use this. In that way, you're solving two problems. You're helping our agricultural products to be better, and then you're also reducing the volume of organic waste that we have at the dump sites. So for me, I would say we need government intervention. We need awareness, even for the farmers, to know that, you know, organic fertilizers are as good as or better than the chemical fertilizers that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing justice to that question. Okay, so this next question is we have limited time, so please, we have barely 10 minutes to wrap up this webinar, and we cannot attend to every single question. We are sorry. So please, we are pleading to our panelists to please give us short answers. Thank you. Then this next question is for Mr. Odumboni. For corporate organizations that have recycling initiatives and have reduced corporate organizations.
I don't think Mr. Ibrahim is still on the call.
Oh,
so
okay.
You might just have to take up that question, get an answer from him, and probably contact each individual later.
Okay, thank you very much for that observation. Okay, so we will take the next question. So there's a question here for Amaka. How do one assess the grants from Coca-Cola to get required equipment for the business?
So like I said, so I've seen a number of questions on assessing grants. So there are two types of grants that we give. One is to the Coca-Cola Foundation. Coca-Cola Foundation is the philanthropic arm of the company that sits in Atlanta. They have a grant cycle. It's global. Every countries or people from all over the world apply to that grant. So the portal, I can share with the organizers of this event, the portal. Today, we don't have the timelines, but timelines, when they open, there's always a call for proposals and everybody all over the world apply for this kind of grants. But the grant is only available to not-for-profit organizations. They are not for businesses. Then, that is one of the areas that you see some of the grants running today in communities. And then on the other side, in terms of the business, so FBRA is a platform that we have. I don't know if you guys are members of RAN. There's a lot of talk between FBRA and RAN. We have the secretariat. What we try to do is on the waste side, we try to approach it under the consortium. So I would tell you to reach out to FBRA. We have a secretariat. So those proposals are forwarded to us. And then we are able to see the ones that we partner with. I would also drop my email address with the organizers. I can drop it on the chat. Feel free to also reach out to me directly, and I'll be able to either review and give you feedback. So that will be in a nutshell to answer all the questions on grants. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. We have another question for Mrs. Amaka. Yes, is there any consideration for plastic producers when we recycle bottles back to bottles, knowing that it will take away their job from them? How do we balance it?
I think I've answered that. I've tried to type in some answers actually. But in a nutshell, what I was just trying to say is that there won't be any time that the plastic producers will be out of business, because no matter how you recycle, you still need the new plastics. Sometimes it's a mix before you get to the bottle that you will use again. So they would continue to be in business, but then maybe the volume of business that they do is reduced. But the sector is not going to go away.
All right. Thank you very much. We have, okay, so we still have more, more contributions. Okay, we have another question. This question is in two parts. Excuse me. First, what opportunities exist for someone who wants to build a career in circular economy? Second, what advice do you have for this person to take advantage of these opportunities and start a career here? I think this one is open to any of our panelists that wants to give an input. Yes. So what opportunities exist for someone who wants to build a career in circular economy?
Okay, so I would help with that. Circular economy is really very wide. So you have to decide what aspect of it you want to actually major in. You have to identify the industry, the waste. For example, circular economy in e-waste, circular economy in plastic, circular economy. So you have to identify, you actually have to research to know what exactly excites you. And then when you know, then you begin to see, okay, do you want to talk about rethink product with packaging? Is that aspect you're interested in? Is it in rethinking of packaging materials? Are you looking at remanufacturing? Are you looking at refurbishment? Are you looking at recycling? So there is a big loop, very big loop. And then you have to be able to, first of all, I always say research, read. When you do that, you can then see what excites you when it comes to CE. With that, you can then decide what aspect you actually want to. There's a big career when it comes to circular economy, definitely. But I think I would advocate for you to actually research, do some study, and then identify what actually excites you. Thank you.
And maybe just to add, there's a lot of green fund that is available. And I think you can actually tap it. You guys see a lot of people asking for grants. I would advise, I think there's a call for proposal from Alliance to End Plastic Action. It's up till July 31st. So these are global organizations that have so many resources, especially in the area of circular economy. And another way is also, there's a lot of people that are already in that space. You can attach yourself to them, even if it's on basis of volunteer, and there's a lot to learn. So really, I would encourage people to search for information. I'm trying to look for the link. I'm going to post the link for this grant opportunity. I saw it and I know I sent it to some businesses this morning. I'm going to post it on this platform. So let's be broad, think broad and not narrow our opportunities to only local companies here in Nigeria. Really, I tell people every day that there's a lot of green bonds that are available for circular economy. People in Nigeria are not able to leverage these opportunities, probably because we are not aware of them.
Yeah, so I think what we've been able to draw from this whole webinar is that information is key, really. Like, you know, when there isn't adequate information, we are sort of limited in our options. And also it's important that awareness is created, awareness surrounding the circular economy, surrounding recycling is created, so everybody can know the opportunities that lurk in it and tap into it. So I think we've addressed all the questions. We've addressed all the questions, and so we just have comments and feedbacks from our attendees. Thank you all for sticking with us up until this moment. So we'll be closing this webinar, and I would like to invite the principal consultant and co-founder of Street Waste Company Limited, Mrs. Omo Alokwe, to give us the final vote of thanks and conclude. It was nice having you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Patience. And thank you, everyone. A big thank you to our panelists so far. It's been enlightening, educative, and as Patience has said, awareness, information is key. And that's why we are bringing this webinar to the public, for them to be aware about opportunities in recycling and how to go about it. I want to believe every one of us have been able to take one or two things home. And thank you for staying with us up till this moment. So you can actually reach out to us on all our social media handles at SWCLNG. You can send us an email at gogreen@swcl.com.ng. So I want to say a big thank you to the panelists and to all our participants. Thank you so much. Thank you. So this comes to the end of the webinar. Thank you. So I wouldn't know if the panelists want to say any other thing. From Amaka or from Engineer Shadinubi.
Okay, maybe I can start. So I would like to thank everyone for your time. I think we have a total of 29 participants. That's actually a great one. I believe we've been able to learn one or two things. I've posted on the link, on the chat session, some link. Please, I would really want to encourage each and every one of us that sometimes you might not do it alone. Seek for partners. If you have to get partners to be able to write a really good proposal, please do that, because most times you might not have the core competence to be able to intervene in all of them. And that is what makes companies like us very great. We actually get our niche and get partners to be able to tackle some other areas that we're not very, we don't have the core competence. So that's what I'm going to leave with each and every one of us as we tackle the plastic waste challenge. Do not feel that sometimes you just have to do it alone. If you have the right partners and you're able to secure good funding, we can solve the problem for Nigeria. So thank you so much for everything. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Amaka. So any notes from Engineer Shadinobi?
Okay, so I would just say that recycling is possible, and recycling is possible with you. Everyone can actually recycle. You can start from your home and then identify the closest recycler close to you and do your bit. When we all do our bits, it becomes something global. So for me, I'm going to say, happy Global Recycling Day. Join the movement. And it's exciting when you do something and then you are excited about what you're doing. So please, it's very important. If you need information, you need data, you need collaboration. We have the Research Institute, we have the university. We're here, we're doing a lot of research, we have a lot of publications that we can share. So if you need information, we're here to share with you. You need help, you need information, definitely we're here. So on that note, I would say again, let's keep recycling, keep recycling. And recycle everything, not just plastics, because we're all talking about plastics, everything. All right, then have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for this great opportunity. And then I'll say a big thank you to Straightweight. Thank you, Omo, and your team. Thank you. Well done. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And on this note, we've come to the end of the webinar, and it's great having everyone. Thank you. Do have a great day and enjoy the rest of the day. Happy Global Recycling Day. Bye.
Bye. Bye.